watch the TV, I watch the news, make you afraid of the news, you know? Put all these stories on, Iraq, Iran, North Korea, you know, try to scare you, you know? But does it ever really scare you? Like, you ever wake up in the middle of the night, North Korea! That little tiny country across the ocean. I wonder if they'll get me. Plus, didn't MASH settle that like 20 years ago? Why do I have to watch that stupid show? There is one country that worries me, though. Not Iraq, not Iran, not North Korea. The only country that really worries me is the country of Germany. I don't know if you guys are history buffs or not, but in the early part of the previous century, Germany decided to go to war. And who did they go to war with? The world. This had never been tried before. And so you figure that would take about 5 seconds for the world to win, but no, it was actually close. Then about 30 years pass, and Germany decides again to go to war, and again it chooses as its enemy the world. And this time they have that guy, Schrankly, that guy. I'm not even going to dignify him by saying his name, but I think you know what I'm saying. But you'd think at that point the world will go, listen, Germany, here's the deal. You don't got to be a country no more on account of you keep attacking the world. You're Mars or something?
Well, you may wonder what the relevance of that is. But according to sources that I follow, Germany is calling for war with Russia. And depending on who you listen to, Ukraine just sent drones into deep into the Soviet Union, Russia. And depending on who you listen to, they hit several bombers, or they destroyed 40, maybe 60 bombers of the Soviet Union, or of Russia, on Russian soil, deep. Now you are citizens of a country where 30 to 60 men organized apparently, although I think that it's much deeper than what we've been told. Many of the Jews who worked in the Twin Towers didn't show up for work. Why? Did they know? I don't know. Oh, you can't say that. Why can't you say it? If you want to be woke and you want to go by people's feelings, you're going to stay broke. Wall Street is a bare knuckles game. And that guy that bought the World Trade Centers, Twiddlestein or whatever his name was, he immediately double insured it. 2 months before they went down. You don't think there was somebody that knew what was going on? I do. But anyway, let's not get lost in, oh, that's conspiracy theory. Do you know how many conspiracy theories have turned out to be correct? Just because the New York Times says it's a conspiracy theory, I think the New York Times is a conspiracy theory. Anyway, when we were attacked as we put it. We had a president that couldn't read a children's book. We had the world's best intelligence services, and we were caught by surprise. Or were we in on it? You can judge that. But we had the world's best intelligence services. We were warned. There's a picture of Condi Rice with a thing under her arm. We were warned. But anyway, we got attacked, and we turned it into war. We went to war, even though it was criminal. Even though it was criminal, we went to war. And we decided to initiate the new American century. How's that been working out for the United States? This idiot Wolfowitz, this idiot Cheney, this idiot Bush, and so on. Kagan, I forget his first name, Kagan, the husband of Victoria Nuland. Hillary. And then the worst of all right now, a truly evil man, Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham wants World War III, and Germany wants World War III. And the head of the EU, this woman, van der Leyen, she wants World War III. And you know what we're doing here? We're being self-indulgent. We are being self-indulgent. When's MMTOP going to settle? Oh, wow, look at GTII. It's at 10 cents, and there's a guy who plays golf's going to be the CEO. Wow. They got a receiver. Awesome. Finger motion. Are you a consultant? Hey, we're a bunch of idiots, but we're on the job, and we're going to figure out that William is the reason that Finger went up 5x and we didn't sell. Guys, we're being self-indulgent. You don't have much more time. You do not have much more time to wake up and try to do things for yourself, your family, and your loved ones. It's June 1. I'll try to tone my voice down. I don't want to go to World War III. I don't want to go to World War III. And Donald Trump is being advised by BlackRock, and I don't know the guy's name, Fink. He's Jewish. Oh, you can't say that. You can't say that. Look what Germany did to the Jews 90 years ago. How can you say that? Well, all right, I can't say it. We can't notice that BlackRock and many other organizations represent a thought process that might go back to the Cossacks running Jews out of villages in Russia, which is horrible. Well, no, you sound, don't you even begin to tell me what I sound like. But we now have a foreign policy because there are some effete, couldn't play football. I can't either. I'll admit it. I can't either. But a bunch of guys that want to use the United States of America to start war with Russia, to start war with Iran, to obliterate an entire population in Gaza Strip. Are they Jewish? I don't know. I'll let you decide. Are their grandparents from Ukraine? Their parents from Ukraine? I'll let you decide. Is that anti-Jewish on my part? No. What I'm telling you is BlackRock has a geopolitical weight bigger than Saudi Arabia, probably bigger than China, bigger than India. BlackRock is a behemoth on the geopolitical scale. And all it is a concentration of wealth inside the United States of America, the country who opened belatedly opened their arms to immigrants from all over the world. And how are we repaid? By a small subset, very small subset of powerful men and women. We're being led into World War III. And you're here asking me if I'm a consultant for finger motion, as if you're going to solve all the world's problems there. I'm not. This is June 1, and I'm changing how I'm going to handle this channel. I don't have any ultimatums. I'm sure I'll backslide. But let me tell you one thing. GTII is a piece of shit. It's not worth spending another minute on it. If you want to go over to Richard Hoffman and hear about legal this, legal that, filing this, we've done this, receiver, another report, and Reichman stole this, and his daughter did that, go. That's entertaining. It's not going to make you any money. It is not going to make any money for you. And if you think all those people are working for free, but do you ask them, are you a consultant for? No, you don't. Because you figure you've got something here. You've figured it out. This is a pump and dump scheme. William is a pump and dumper. William is pumping fingers so he can dump finger. Well, I don't want to defend myself anymore. The other day, I went through full disclosure of my financial situation. It's embarrassing. And you know one thing a smart gentleman told me? Men don't like to be embarrassed. Men don't like to be shamed. It fills me with shame, a multimillionaire, to be talking about an account that Rhode Island could kick its ass in a war. And I can barely honor my commitments. But here I am trying to help, and what comes is, are you a consultant? You're a pump and dump. I'm not going to deal with that shit anymore. I'm not going to deal with it. If you want to, waste your time. I don't have time to waste anymore. Secondly, MMTOP, there will never be a settlement, ever. On the financial side, Wall Street's not going to settle. Congress isn't going to settle. Regulators are not going to force settlement. Journalism isn't going to force settlement. That is never happening. And if you want to listen to Double D and the rest of his cohort telling you that somehow Wall Street owes you something, you're going down a primrose path. I'm not going to defend the argument anymore. He is wrong, and if you listen to him, you are wrong. On a financial side, the only way you can ever get that investment back is if you stand full square, foursquare, fulsomely with Greg McCabe. But if you listen to that prevaricator, you're gonna believe that, oh, Wall Street owes me something. He's lying to you because he's being paid. Now, this is not personal against him. And I didn't listen to the messages. It pops up. Something personal. I don't know how it ever got personal. It's not personal. I'm calling it how I see it. He comes in to be buddy-buddy, but he's here to get you to operate against your best interests. So if you want to make money on MMTLP, move your shares and do it in size enough that you can help Greg McKay fight for you and fight for Nextbridge. If you want to be in both boats, be in both boats. I'm tired of arguing. There could be a legal settlement in MMTOP. The West Christians of the world who need to be paid, and you don't have the money, so you're at the whim of other people's money. But what's going to happen, as I'm going to try to describe to you, and I'm going to try to calm my voice down. What's going to happen is it's going to take 8 years. You know what's going to happen in 8 years? Your financial world is going to be wiped out. You do not have time to focus or wait on MMTOP. So you can ask me. I'll talk about it. But the criminals won. The criminals won. And they're being paid, by the way. You just don't know who to ask. DD, are you a consultant with whom? You don't know because they're in the dark. And then that brings us to finger motion. Today is June 1, 2025. I think I made my first investment in finger motion I really don't know. It was third quarter of maybe 22, but I could be wrong 1 year either way. At first, I believed, based on my experience on Wall Street, I believed the story about the short squeeze. But I'm going to state it clearly, and I'll state it again. This isn't my final hurrah. There will be no squeeze in finger motion. Is June 1? I'm calling time on it. There will not be a squeeze in finger motion. That's my point of view. Now, fundamentally, I think there's a great story in finger motion. But hey, I tried to show you, I tried to backpedal it, and then I tried to show you sort of January/February, there's a trade here ahead of us in finger motion. Unfortunately, I didn't have the money, as you now know. I don't have very much money. I couldn't invest in it. So it's kind of hot air. But there's recordings of me saying it. So that, on that sense, it's not hot air. But if you don't think 3x, 4x, 5x is good enough, well, I don't know what to tell you. I think that's a pretty darn good trade in finger motion. I think I'm not going to talk about it right now, but I think finger motion has a tremendous fundamental story, but the risk is execution, and we need to know more too. But let me be clear. In 9 months, approximately, the stock market is going to crash, and we are going to be in a worldwide bust. Now, is that for sure? No. There's nothing for sure. That's my projection after listening to, I listen to everybody. I read everything I can afford to read. So unless finger motion squeezes, now, odds are the shorts are going to be bailed out. Now, there's a counter argument that if all the banks are going down, the shorts are in trouble, so these stocks are going to go up. Maybe. But I submit to you, if you wait too long, and I'm not telling you what to do, you're going to find out those banks are out of business and your assets are forfeit and you're in a lawsuit. So I'm tired of every time I've tried to say things to you. For example, one thing pops into my head. I said finger motion is going to raise money. Everyone got upset with me. Everybody. Only the shorts are saying that. But whatever. I don't have time for it anymore. You don't have time for it anymore. You don't have time for it anymore. You're by arguing and falling back on victimhood, that Wall Street is corrupt and Wall Street's cheating us and Wall Street owes us, you're going to run out of time. You're going to be part of the great unwashed. And when I say unwashed, I mean socks that aren't clean, underwear that's not clean, sleeping under the frickin' bridges. Because of our inability, and by the way, Zionism is not all Jewish. It's actually the fault of, I don't know what to call it. I just got back from Mass and I said to myself, I wasn't going to come on. And I said, no, I got to do maybe, I don't know. Do we just pretend that we're doing something we think we're asked to do? I don't know. But I don't know what Catholicism means to the rest of the world. I know growing up, my mother told me never to tell anyone I was Catholic because of the discrimination against Catholicism. But we don't have, as far as I know, and there's different branches and different brotherhoods of Catholicism. But as far as I know, we do not have in our faith the desire to bring Armageddon into the Middle East so Christ will come back and all the do-gooders will be lifted up into heaven and the rest of us are stuck on the planet. This is insanity, but this is Zionism. I don't know. I'm not here to fight. If you think I'm anti-Semitic, I don't care. I'm not. If you think I'm racist, I don't care, but I'm not. If you think I'm a misogynist, I don't care, but I'm not. If you think that I'm a Democrat, I am. I can't be Republican. You guys have Lindsey Graham and Dick Cheney. I can't be Republican. But if you think that's what's motivating me, it doesn't. If you think I'm a consultant for Finger and somehow this has all been a job to suck you in and take money from you, I can't help you. I'm not. That's not me. It's not me. I can't help you. And I'm tired of arguing it. June 1, here's my goal. It's June 1, here's my goal. I'm imperfect. I'm not a teacher. I'm not a professor. I don't have a book anymore. I'm not a President's Club, Wall Street guy, whatever club, Chairman's Club, any of the clubs. I was in them. I'm not in them anymore. I don't have a big fancy title. I don't have a dog that makes me feel happy. But here's my goal now. I'm going to do it for me. I have a small account, but I got to start where I am. I think that's where you have to start. If I'm talking to 10 people or 100 people, I'd like to make those 10 or 100 people. Wealthy's the wrong word. financially independent, strong enough financially to survive what's coming and thrive on the other side. Now, if you want to bog me down, are you a consultant for finger motion? Why isn't it disclosed? Well, one's an assumption and the other's the truth. It's not disclosed because I'm not. But I'm tired of the implications. If you think what's going on in the markets is guys like me are pumping and dumping and that's the problem, then you haven't been listening. And you know what? I don't have time anymore. Now, I'm not going to quit for people of good intent. I mean, most of you here show amazing leadership would be a word, intelligence, curiosity, but you're doing the step, and I'm just one schmo. There's plenty of smarter people out there to listen to, but you're saying, wait a minute, something's wrong, and I want to learn. That's a huge step. But if we're going to get bogged down in the FUD and the doubt and the name calling that the shills put in your heart and in your brain, so you come on here and you say, why doesn't it disclose in the 10K that you're being that you are a consultant for finger motion? Where'd you come up with that? Or the other guy, well, you promoted logic. What else would you call it? Look, I'm not going to go defend myself anymore. If you've been listening, you know that I lost my ass. I lost my ass. Why extend that sentence? I'll just leave it there. So why should you listen to me? You shouldn't. Go listen to Double D and his laughing hyenas around him because he's so smart. All right. I made that point. I talked about Finger, GTI, and MMTLP. I think Finger has a bright future ahead of it. But just like GME and AMC, I don't think there's any squeezes coming. All right, so what's ahead of us right now? Right now, what's ahead of us are GBUX, Railtown, and Nixie. Now, I want, although I'm not promising that I'm going to be 100% removed, but after these three stocks, I want to be done chasing short squeezes. They're nearly impossible to chase. Why? You haven't been listening. It's because of the pump and dumpers. It's because the company's bad. It's because of the CEO. It's because of Lou. I can't believe you're blaming a dead man. That in and of itself is the problem, that emotional crap. If I can't talk about what's happening, I can't tell you how to take steps to protect yourself. If I say something, oh, you're as bad as Hitler. Oh, you're going after a dead man. How does that help me? If you want to remain woke and walk on eggshells, you're going to stay broke. But this time when you're broke, there's going to be no help. It's possible anyway. You don't know the magnitude of what's coming. I don't either. But can you say Great Depression? Think of the Great Depression. None of us, even the oldest person here, none of us remember the Great Depression. That's why it happens again. Now, these bastards, a lot, I had a girlfriend, really I did, Russian, beautiful, smart, fund, and she had some disappointments in life when the ruble collapsed. She's now married. She's Mormon. God bless her. Probably the only woman that I ever introduced to my father that he fell head over heels for. She's a great person. And I won't go into more details. But she pointed out that the oligarchs, she pointed it out, but now you're going to say I'm the one at fault, whatever. She pointed out that the oligarchs were all backed by Israeli and New York money, and they were all Jewish. They bought up all of the Russians had no idea what capitalism is. So these guys went around buying up shares in the coal industry, the steel industry, the oil and gas industry, the timber industry, anything they bought, they gobbled it all up with Western money. And then they collapsed the ruble. And you know what? They made a lot of money, but then they got hurt over I would say over the last 2 decades, they've been hurt. By whom? Putin. Putin, who has a degree or better in natural resources, oil and gas. I believe he's even a lawyer. But this guy understands the value of resources. He understands the value of the 75 trillion estimated of Russian wealth. He fought back. He put oligarchs in jail. I stood as far as this computer is from me right now from that Abramovich guy in London as he came out of a restaurant. Just a human being, like the rest of us. Well, you're going to be upset if I don't notice that the same banksters, BlackRock being the prime one, might be targeting Putin, might be targeting Russian assets. But they're going to bring you into World War III. And while you're focused on what GTII is doing, how would we react if drones were launched from Canada and hit Fort Drum? How would we react? Guys, the world is not going to give you much more time to live in illusion. And my opinion is coming after me as if I'm here trying to do something nefarious or focusing on this receivership in GTII or wishing a short squeeze to happen. You're wasting the last chances you have to get ready. It's just how it is. I was hoping finger motion would make me and a lot of you, a lot of my friends, a lot of money. Finger motion did just give you 5 times your investment. It wasn't good enough for most people. I was hoping GTII would do something similar, even though all it was a piece of shit, but it was a short squeeze story. I was hoping Vocal would do it. I believed Logic would do it, but the very CEO who I had confidence in, he just signed it away. Well, I don't know why. I don't know what was going through his head. But it doesn't matter anymore. I don't have time to figure it out. I don't have time to debate it. I have to get ready for what's coming, and so do you. So do you. So do you. So what do we have? We have GBUX. I bought, what did I buy? 681 shares or something? I told you. I don't see my notes. Anyway, whatever I bought, I bought. Yeah, here it is, 681 shares. So I have 681 shares of GBUX. And I paid essentially 271. I got 6 shares at 269. But the rest I bought at 271. So how do I see GBUX? Ironically, I think GBUX is the one story we have in front of us which could have a short squeeze. That probably surprises you, but I think GBUX could have a short squeeze. But I think GBUX is extraordinarily high risk. So much so that just looking at my purchase price, 271, I figure I can lose $2 overnight. Now it may go to 100 or 150 in a squeeze. So that's the risk reward, and I think that's pretty accurate description of the risk reward. How likely is it to squeeze? I'd say it's like drilling a wildcat well. Anywhere from 5 to 20%. If you are enormously confident that it's going to squeeze, I would give it 20% odds. If you're kind of so-so, it doesn't look good, but I'll go ahead and do it, I'd give it 5% odds. It is such a high-risk play. However, what do we know about GBUX? We know that there's a large short position. We know that the story is, it's been announced, that they're going to sell a big potload of stock from existing shareholders largely. It's kind of gray. It doesn't say whether they're also issuing shares, but we'll find out. We'll find out. Maybe the existing shareholders will be 30%, and maybe just to make the deal work, the company will sell 10%. I don't know. We'll find out. There's rumblings that there'll be news this week. There'll have to be. There'll have to be news this week for GBUX to work, unless they delay the dividend again. The reason I think GBUX can work, totally speculation on my part. You've got offshore money. You've got longs, wealthy whales manipulating it, I think. I don't know what word to use. That's probably not the right word. Engineering it would be a better word. And I have no idea. I really don't. But is it possible they have money enough to buy a trading desk offshore that can turn the algorithms to buy? Yes, I think so. So if they get the deal done, they can bring in a volume of both fake and real buying. And I think the shorts are still trapped. That's the main difference with GBUX and Finger and GME and AMC. I think the shorts are still trapped. So what am I going to do with GBUX? Well, I've got such a huge position. It's going to change my life. 681. I don't have any orders in to sell. I think tomorrow in the morning, I'll put a GTC in at $55 or $89. I don't know. See how I feel in the morning. I don't think I'm going to do 100. I don't think I'm going to do 144, but maybe. Let me say that. Those will be I have to decide tomorrow. GTC, 55, 89, 100, or 144. Those are the four I'll choose from. Right now, I'm leaning at the 55. If there's news that's positive for GBUX, I'll ride it, but not for very long. I don't think I'll wait past the ex-dividend. I mean, I'll wait through the ex-dividend, but I don't think I'm going to go listen to any other stories. Oh, the dividend's doing this. Oh, that's doing that. For me, GBUX is a 1 week play. Now, you're going to ask why. Why don't you stay in it longer? Well, I have one answer. Railtown. But before we get to Railtown, let's finish GBUX and then talk about Nixie. The one thing that makes no sense about GBUX, you cannot square the circle or whatever the hell the word is. The offer roughly is $200 million for 30% of the company. Well, that implies a market cap of, just broadly, roughly $700 million. The market cap of GBUX right now is $200 million. I know it's a little bit more. So basically, the guy putting up the money could buy the whole company. So that's irreconcilable, unless there's good salesmanship, unless there is a strategy, in my judgment, to turn on the machines. So if we hear good news on GBUX, to me, and I know nothing, nobody's talked to me, I figure it's because they got everything lined up on the long side to kick ass, to take names. So that's my feeling on GBUX. But you could lose everything. If you own GBUX, that could be a house of cards, and it could be a 60-cent stock in one morning. So that's the situation with GBUX. But I'm playing part of it because I think the part that makes sense to me is they're not doing a deal with Wall Street. They're not involving White Diamond, who's a crook, in my judgment. They are engineering this, so it has to work to work. Does that make sense? It has to work to work. But anyway, that's GBUX. We'll see how it goes. If the news is strong this week, I do think on the chart, let me just look if I had a chart here. No, that's Railtown. I couldn't do a chart. I couldn't do a chart on GBUX that was meaningful on my service. It doesn't even come up. I type in it doesn't even register GBUX. So I don't really have a chart on it. But if it goes, I will be getting out of GBUX. And if Nixie is still down or a reasonable price, I'll probably move to Nixie, hoping to get Nixie. So let's quickly talk about Nixie. I own Nixie. I'm not a consultant for any of these companies, by the way. And I forgot to do it when I started, so I should take a minute. I've got to learn how to just make a disclosure. I think I've been doing it all along, but Jennifer made me aware that and made me concerned that I'm not doing enough. But I forget how the variety of my audience. This is a channel of, I hope, education, I hope strategy, and of opinion. Nothing I say on here is financial advice. Nothing. And I seek the safe harbor of every single multi-page, multi-paragraph, one paragraph disclosure statement you've ever seen on an offering, on a piece of research, on TV commercials. I just don't have a lawyer. I don't know how to write an all-encompassing one. But I'll summarize it with this. If you buy it, it's your decision. If you sell it, it's your decision. If you don't sell it, it's your decision. I do not have a fiduciary relationship with any of you. Okay. Nixie. Again, I don't have a chart on Nixie. I forget why. I tried to get one. Maybe it just didn't say very much. That might have been it. I did a larger one, and I could see a minor declining wedge, but then I figured I'm just making that up. And on a broader view, all I could really tell you is it's broken out a little bit. Nixie on the chart, I don't know. For my skill level of reading charts, I really have to stretch coming up with a bullish reading. But here's where I am on Nixie. I don't understand why it's been taking so long. I really don't. So that's just a statement. That's a caution. But last week, they announced a new CEO. And from all of my sleuthing, he's the real deal. And he's very powerful, has a lot of followers. In that sense, he's powerful. He can bring a lot of attention to the stock. There's a lot of moving parts, apparently. They have announced that they have this increased revenue, and it's growing, and they're making money. They have profits. They've announced they're in the telecom / AI / a bunch of stuff I don't understand space. But to me, Nixie is cheap as hell. Cheap as hell. All things being equal, it's a fifth, if not a sixth, of the price on a market cap basis as Finger Motion, and they have the same revenues, essentially. With Finger, we're looking backwards for 3 years, and with Nixie, we're kind of taking their word for it right now, and which they published. So it can't be, if it's a lie, they go to jail. And we're extrapolating for the remainder of the year. So I think Nixie has a 3, 4, 5x in it. And I think because it's June, that a lot of the news we've been waiting on could start falling. And I think Nixie, because it's the old recruiter.com, could have a squeeze as well. I'm not talking about a huge squeeze, but it could trap some people. So my bottom line view on Nixie, and it could start this week, but it could take a month. Everything takes so long with them. But I think Nixie twice before traded 50 million shares roughly. I think it's going to do that one more time. And instead of 50 million, it might do 100 million, might do 80 million. Whatever day it is that it does those millions, I'm very likely going to sell my Nixie. On the other hand, if Nixie breaks, I think all day long Nixie goes to 250. That's not a big move, I know. If it gets through 250, I think it goes to 6.25. And if it gets through 650, I don't see any real reason why it stops at 10, but I think 10 is a round number. So 8, 10, 12, maybe there's some profit selling. But I think the sort of 23, 26 range becomes the next magnet for its price. So that's what I think could happen with Nixie. But I don't really trust Nixie if it does 70 million or something in volume on a day and it suddenly is stalling. I don't know. It's going to make me nervous. I might miss out on a bigger move higher. But twice before Nixie ran, once to 12, once to 8, pre-market, and then stopped. And so I'd be very fearful of the stop. Okay. Could that happen next week? Yes. Could it happen within 2 weeks? Yes. Could it happen within 3 weeks? Yes. Could it happen within 4 weeks? Yes. 5 weeks? Yes. But it could start this coming week. Now, both of those I've indicated to you I might sell. And the reason I might sell is I want to own Railtown. And here's Railtown. Railtown, very simplistically, has broken out of a resistance line, a downward trend. And I think where I drew the yellow line, I think that's a bit of a cap. So I think anything under 40 cents is cheap. I think it's tried to break through 41, 2, 3, 4, 5 times maybe, or you could say, if you want to look at it more recently, just 3 times before. But I think it's pretty clear it's tried to get through 45 times. This time, will it go straight through? I don't think so, unless there's a huge announcement. I think it'll get up to 40, pull back, try again. Then maybe it goes to 45, 50, pulls back to 40 before it really goes. Now, I drew another little yellow line up there at around 65 cents. Although my eyesight is bad, I can't quite tell, but that's where I think that all-time high is. If it breaks 65 cents, I think it'll double. Let's call it $1.25. And I don't really see any reason why it would stop there. So I would want to roll the position that I have in GBUX, very small. In Nixie, it's very small in my IRA. I would like it to go into Railtown. And I'd like to have a significant position in Railtown before it breaks out, because I think Railtown will give me that nest egg of capital that I can start doing things with. All right, I guess that's everything I wanted to start out with. I'm not sure I said everything I wanted to say, but it looks like the United States is going to take the side of Israel and of Germany in World War III. So ironically, in World War I, we were part of the good guys. In World War II, I guess we were the good guys. Looks like World War III, we're going to join Germany. And it's not going to be pretty. I pray that doesn't happen, but looks like that's where we're going to go. Yeah, okay. Let me There's some things here that I wanted to go over. Oh, I can't stand it. Ukraine launches massive drone swarm attack on Russian airfields. Trump not notified in advance. All right, so at least Trump's still one of the good guys. And they're calling it the Russian Pearl Harbor. Do you guys understand? And we're talking about MMTLP. Russian Pearl Harbor. That's the Admiral Yamamoto. All we have done is awoken a sleeping, slumbering tiger. I think that's what he said. Kremlin prepared for all-out conflict with NATO. We've got to separate ourselves from Germany. I'm telling you. I hope we do. This is scary too. This new COVID variant is spreading worldwide. So are measles. All of that scares me. And in the category of Trump and truth being oxymoronic, Piers Morgan suggests that the Democratic Party is responsible for mainstream media's failure to notice that the former President Joe Biden autopen was completely cooked or crooked. And he made excuses for journalism by saying at the end of the day, no journalist is as good as their sources. So luckily, the Democratic Party and journalists are truthful, and Trump is and truth are oxymoronic. Anyway, I don't want to go through that article. And the guy Bolton is all for war. OPEC is hiking oil production. It's kind of a puny amount, 400,000 barrels a day. But oil's unless we go to war, oil's probably going to be under pressure. But I think oil presents an enormous wealth building opportunity. But it's not going to be the same as if I buy now, I can get out next week. It's not going to be like that. Israel attacking Syria. Great. But hey, we've got to side with Israel in its all-out war with its neighbors. Otherwise, we're anti-Semites. Who's going to rebuild Gaza? Who's going to rebuild Syria? Who's going to rebuild Ukraine? BlackRock, you're right. BlackRock. Trump is going for a huge increase in nuclear energy. That scares me. I'm trying to find this one article I wanted to read to you. Stocks soared to best May since 1990. Who's been saying that? Who's been saying that? Do you know who's our largest source of oil in the world? You probably do, so I won't hold you in suspense. But it's Canada. Canada is 60% of our imports, and there's now a wildfire, which threatens the Alberta tar sands. That's not the article I was looking for. Is this it? No. All right, let me search. I don't know how to search. Yeah, maybe I can search this way. No. All right, let me go. That's not it. That's not it. Oh, maybe this is it. Yeah, there it is. Wrong. I skipped right over the headline. All right, so this is from James Howard Kunstler, a guy who I've read 3 or 4 of his books. He came to, he lives in upstate New York, and he came to this area of education and criticism actually from architecture, city planning. But he really went into peak oil and other absurdities of modern life. But I followed him, you know, I stopped subscribing, and the last time I probably read a book from him was 12 years ago, 15 years ago. But here he is, he's still here. So this goes along the lines, of course, of Trump and Truth Social of being an oxymoron. But this is James Howard Kunstler. He's got a picture of Trump alone talking about Trump's risky gambit. While Jake Tapper leads the Mea Culpa chorus, singing Kumbaya in minor key, absolutely nobody is fooled that the grotesque, psychotic deformities of U.S. politics can be reduced to a few White House factotums, I don't know what that is, lying to the news media about Joe Biden's cognitive abilities. For one thing, the news media was not lied to. The news media, including Jake, lied to the nation consistently, flagrantly, mendaciously for years. And most of all, they lied about the gigantic racketeering operation that government has become in the age of anything goes and nothing matters. And that's why I'm reading you this. If you are still believing CNN, cases in point, as reported by Alex Krainer, the 93 billion barfed out of the Department Energy between November election and January 20, 93 billion spewed out of the Department of Energy under Joe Biden's auto pen to scores of hastily formed NGO gangs with no business model or record of competency, and the staggering 375 billion spread around similarly out of the EPA from a slush fund run by John Podesta as senior advisor to the president for international climate policy and clean energy innovation. All of it was pure grift, you understand, and it was how the Democratic Party kept its activist troops of the so-called marginalized paid and happy. As it happened, the marginalized who dwell on the edge of society and also just beyond the set of agreements that define reality are outnumbered by the rest of us who voted against the tyranny of the margin and their hallucinations. And so now the country goes through a convulsion attempting to readjust to reality. For instance, the unhappy fact that all that money was unreal, not real, mere bookkeeping entries by dishonest accountants. The name, I'm not going to tell you the name of his website. It's not a polite name. One reality we struggle with is the doleful fact that there is no workaround for the nation's monumental debt. Since it cannot possibly be paid off, there are two stark paths for it: default and ruinous deflation. That is, money vanishes and the nation goes broke, or a futile attempt to inflate it away with more fake money creation. You'll have money, but it's increasingly worthless, so you're effectively broke. Either way, you're broke. In the meantime, the remorseless interest that has to be paid on 36.2 trillion squeezes out everything else we're supposed to care for as it relates to the common good. Every broke-ass family or individual person knows how debilitating money worries can be. I do. And since unpayable debt is the common denominator across all of Western civilization, unpayable debt is the common denominator across all of Western civilization. This perhaps explains the gross, suicidal, mental disorder displayed lately by leadership all across Europe, North America, and Anglo-Oceania. Europe, especially, exhibits behavior that is completely cuckoo, inciting war with Russia, inviting in murderous hostiles from foreign lands and sadistically policing their own citizens. This is what Europe's doing. The exception is Mr. Trump. Wait a minute, I thought Trump and truth was oxymoronic. Something's not right here. The exception is Mr. Trump, a businessman outsider to government, trying to pull off an escape from the deadly debt quandary. It's probably impossible, but he is trying nonetheless. his attempt has three main features. One, he's trying to readjust trade relations that in theory would restore industrial production across the land. A bootstrapping operation to kick off growth. Two, he's trying to engineer a severe reset of the money system that would effectively amount to defaulting on debt, but somehow without the feature of disappearing money. At best, this would induce some kind of fall in living standards, but mostly among the small sector of financial buccaneers who thrive on swindles and the boomers living on investment accounts, figment wealth, who are now dying off anyway, which is to say, Great Depression light. And three, he's trying his least understood feature of Trumpism. He's trying to decouple the United States from the resource scarcity in the rest of the world. Resource scarcity. That's how you're going to protect yourself, your family, and your loved ones over the next decade. And it's probably going to start in 18 months. You're going to start taking advantage of resource scarcity. So the least understood feature of Trumpism is to try to decouple the United States from the resource scarcity in the rest of the world and the consequent strife it's inducing, and to withdraw into a sort of fortress North America, Canada, Greenland, that can somehow carry on self-sufficiently whilst everybody else collapses. That's what he is trying to do. Canada, United States, maybe a little bit of Mexico, Greenland. Maybe a little bit of Puerto Rico. And live within our wealth while the rest of the world goes down. As big pictures go, this is a pretty wild one. Stupendously ambitious, that's true, risky, and perhaps improbable. But what do Mr. Trump's domestic opponents have to offer? They offer going back to their asset stripping operation with its insane sideshow of race and sexual hoaxes and hustles. Let's face it, the Democratic Party has utterly shot its wad, which is actually not what you think it is. If it tries to start another civil war, the Democratic Party, it will have its ass handed to it. Despite all the desperate rearguard lawfare underway now, the Democratic Party is already withdrawing into the political thickets to hide while it considers some drastic reorganization of its purpose and personnel. Personnel's for assholes. I was in personnel for 10 years, Callahan. Yeah. It may skulk there for many years, just as it did between James Buchanan, remember him, and Grover Cleveland, remember him. And despite this daunting agenda, despite Trump's daunting agenda, Mr. Trump at least presents a sense of confident determination to get the country righted in some fashion to recover a sense of purpose and enterprise after years of feckless dissipative drift into the hallucinatory madness of the left. You must give him a chance. There is no one else right now, and there is no other way. So he wrote the books he wrote, World by Hand, I read that. The Witch of Hebron, I read that. History of the Future, I think I read. I'll have to order it. Take the chance. And then The Heroes of Spring, The Heroes of Spring, I did not read. And now he has a book called Crazy Land. I'll get it. Dispatches on the Great American Derangement of Our Time, James Howard Kunstler. Let's see what's happening at Pravda. Truck driver linked to drone launches found strangled in Irkutsk region. They drove trucks into Russia with drones in them and then launched them. Ukrainian drones launched from trucks to strike Russian military airfields. Guys, what kind of loony bin are we living in? What kind of loony bin are we living in? All right, I'll answer questions even though I probably won't answer all of them. President Trump confirms Joe Biden dead since 2020. I would go along that doesn't sound right. That probably isn't right. Egg prices have dropped. Surprising candidate emerges as clear Democrat frontrunner. It's not AOC or Kamala Harris. Pete Buttigieg. Oh, God. Senator Lindsey Graham threatens China and Putin after meeting with Zelensky. Remember how they used to say that if a Democrat went abroad and criticized something, that was treason? Who the hell is this guy?
The game that Putin's been playing is about to change. He's going to be hit and hit hard by the United States when it comes to sanctions. China, the game you're playing with Russia is about to change. If you keep buying cheap Russian oil to fuel Putin's war machine, there'll be a 500% tariff on all of your products coming into the United States.
Who the hell are we?
He doesn't understand what 82 senators coming together.
That's Blumenthal. Not even word. It's just all disgusting. All right. Let me just look at what's happening at Roland Garros. Musetti is ahead on Runa. Okay. Platinum. Yeah, I like platinum, but I don't know where to find any research on it. Really don't. I really don't. I really don't. Have any of you guys, you're young enough, you probably took a course and you had to read Richard Heinberg? This is his book, The Party's Over, which I've read several times. This is the revised edition. Oil, War, and the Fate of Industrial Societies. I think I'm going to take you through this. What I think's coming in the next 3 to 9 months, I think I wish I hadn't lost my card, but I can do it almost by memory. And being exact is not as important as the trend. Yeah, I can't find the card I had all this time. But anyway, I think the markets are going to make just blow off highs. And I think the Dow could go to 65,000, the Russell to 4,000. That's probably high. Can't remember what I said on the S&P, 8,000, I think. And the NASDAQ, I can't remember what I said. Anyway, the point is, I think they'll all go 30% to 50% higher. And it will, and I've been saying this for a while, it will just be a huge, powerful move. Then I think, and I think in that scenario, I think silver will go to 125. I think gold will go to 5,000. Those could be high. But then I think the world is just headed into trouble. And I think everything crashes. And I think it's going to be devastating. I think the indices will be down 90, 95%. It might be more accurate to say they'll be down 95% in gold terms, but I think just nominal terms, it could be down that much. One guy I follow says 85%, but I think it's going to be, because nobody's expecting it. The leverage is massive. Everything is computerized. And you think the computers hurt our stocks? Wait till the banks start going down. Banks will be down like they never existed, and there'll be no recovery. Although I think there will be an attempt, and that recovery will come in the form of the Fed buying bonds and the government issuing debt. And it's going to be huge. I bet worldwide we could create another $100 trillion worth of dollars as they're spread around the world, but it'll be other central banks and other debt as well. Could I be way too high on that number? Sure, but I'm trying to be dramatic, because I think it'll be the last attempt to fool everyone that we can somehow Stephanie Kelton our way out of this. Probably the Dow and everything will rally, but it won't go anywhere near the highs. And then we'll settle into, I don't know, I'll be dead probably, 30 years of mediocrity in the stocks we're all following. I think, there's some exceptions. I think healthcare, and although the way it's set up in this country, we get destroyed any stock that works out, but drugs and therapies, by definition, are continuing to be valuable. If we get our agriculture and our food industries clean again. So there's obvious areas that are going to make money. And I think AI technology will always be there. But what I don't see going on after rallying, collapsing, and trying to rally again after that, I don't think you're going to see 70x PE ratios in NVIDIA. Yeah, you might see them right now, but I mean, over the next decade, you're not going to see 70 as a long-term thing. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if they all came down to 15 times. But what's going to make money is your participation in resource plays. And I think platinum's one of them. One of the most amazing projections I heard recently, but then I was listening today, natural gas at $50. Whew. Jerome, yeah, I'm off my meds, Jerome. That's what happened. I'll see you later. I don't need you, Jerome. I really don't need you. If I have 10 people, I'm fine with it. I'm making no money anyway. So Jerome, go screw yourself. Yes, I'm off my meds. All right, so I lost all the whatever comments came before this comment are all gone. So if I'm not answering them, I just don't see them. I don't know. I can't explain it. I don't know why they disappear. I don't know how to go recover them. I don't know. Thank you, Mark, and thank you, account settings. I'm at $4 with a $500. Okay. Yeah, you can wait. That's perfectly normal. Oh, she's amazing. 7 years old. 7 years old. Time goes by. They had First Communion today. I went to Mass with my sister, so I went during the day. And they had First Communion. Those are cute kids. They weren't all kids, but the cute kids all dressed up. I'm glad your daughter's 7. Let's go GBUX and finger. Yeah, you do have to. Yeah, I think Ham, remember GBUX is Ham's idea and finger is Ham's, and finger can squeeze. I'm not going to get involved. I'm not going to spend my life on it anymore. I really don't think we have enough time. If finger doesn't squeeze in the next 90 days, you might have 9 months. But after the market goes to these highs, if finger hasn't squeezed by then, what's going to make it squeeze? I think the collapse is going to devastate Wall Street. And do you think, I guess you could argue the short squeezes like finger will be bought in. It's one theory. One theory. Hey, John Wick, thank you. Oh, somebody's new to finger. Solid data. NB, you're never going to see solid data. When God, what do you mean you're new to this? Do I have to go back through it all over again? I guess I do. What happens, NB, is Wall Street, the hedge funds, the bankers got together and they passed a change in the Uniform Commercial Code, Article 8, under Bill Clinton, that formalized probably what they were already doing, but made it legal. So Wall Street, as you deposit your shares or buy shares, Wall Street can consolidate those shares into pools at the Depository Trust Corporation. And they can then lend out or create derivatives or come up with any scheme they want to gamble, which is signed off as the claim against whatever bet Wall Street is making. The way it shows up most of the time is that the stock loan department lends out shares in I think an attempt to use the same idea of fractional reserve banking as fractional reserve security custodialship, fractional reserve security trading. I don't know what to call it. But they try to do with securities what they've already done with money. And so what happens is a stock loan desk will lend out the same shares over and over and over again. And there's no record of it. There's no solid data anywhere of it. So if you need solid data, I guess you don't believe in God either, right? Because you can't see him with your own eyes. I can't help you. I can't help you. The other thing they do with the securities is they create derivatives. And those derivatives can be anything because they're unregulated, again, by Bill Clinton. And the collateral is your certificate. So your brokerage firm legally can take your money and give you an entitlement to securities rather than real securities. And that's just a fact. That part's been legalized by Bill Clinton. The rest of it, the security, the collusion, the spoofing, and there's so many securities laws they violate, racketeering, that's all illegal. Reg Show does require delivery but it's not enforced. So that's the gray area. If no one is enforcing sodomy laws around the country, do those sodomy laws really matter? I don't know. But no one enforces settlement. Nobody enforces delivery in the U.S. markets. So do those laws matter? I don't know. But NB, you'd have to contact Ann Wagner's offices. She's the head of oversight. She is against the consolidated audit trail because she thinks it's important to protect the privacy of the criminals. And there you go. There you go. There is no evidence. Congress doesn't want to keep a consolidated audit trail, so there's no way to track it. You are unable to know how many shares have been sold versus how many shares are at the DTCC because Ann Wagner doesn't want you to know. They also start trading offshore, and there's no record keeping at all, no requirements at all, particularly out of Germany. So, NB, I can't help you. There's no, as you put it, solid data. I'll tell you what's solid right in front of your face. Look at finger motion when they did an offering via Roth Capital. The deal was haircut a third of the market cap. They gave warrants, and then immediately the stock was driven to $1. Recently, just a matter of days ago, Finger Motion did a deal. Yes, it was under market, but it was with normal investors, not Roth Capital, not the toad, I forget his name right now, Moez Kassam. Guess what? There's no derivatives. There's no selling. There's no shorting. But MB, if you're looking for solid data to prove the case, go somewhere else. You're never going to prove it. And so you'll just keep losing money. Stocks will keep going down. You should be just invest in something else. Just, go do something else. Depression coming. Well, I don't know if it's going to be a depression fully. Is there a safe haven? No, I don't think there's something you can buy and hold over the next 2 years without volatility. On the other hand, I think there's things you should buy and hold, but it'll be volatile. The single most important thing to buy, I think, is silver, physical silver. It's under $40 right now. And I think it's going to go to I think 100, 120 in this run up. Could that be 3 months? Could that be January? I don't know, but it'll be now. It'll be short term in the sense of less than a year. But then when everything collapses, I think silver will pull back to 40 or 45. And so there's a trading opportunity there. But if you bought it now and it runs up, you'll feel good. And then when it pulls back, you probably won't feel that good, but you'll be okay because you bought it cheaper. A lot of people, though, who buy it at 120 are going to feel sick to their stomach when it comes back to 60 or 50 or maybe 40. But I think that'll be temporary. So that's all I'm saying is I think there'll be volatility, but I mean, I'll just throw out numbers out there. There are some caveats. I mean, if we go to war, all of this could happen more quickly. If the population is collapsing, I guess that could change things. If people believe that, because nothing's set in stone, you know, so if Trump is successful at creating a booming North American economy, you know, maybe it can all be delayed. But I think between now and 90 days, between now and 6 months, between now and 9 months, I think the markets are going to explode higher. And that's going to be our last chance to readjust our assets. The first place I'd go is silver right now. It's the cheapest asset on the planet. John keeps bringing up platinum, and he may well be right because platinum has tremendous uses, particularly in the automobile industry and other things, green market. But silver is critical, as is oil. Silver is critical to modern society. And silver has not traded since 1980 higher than $52 an ounce. So that's 92, that's 2002, that's 2012, that's 2022. It's over 40 years since silver is traded at $52 an ounce. Silver supplies have gone down above ground drastically. The annual production of silver, what I'm remembering right now, is about 800 million ounces. It might be 770. But it hasn't, there's no visible way to increase that production rapidly, like turning on a faucet. And in fact, some of that production may decline rapidly. There's talk of peak silver. I don't know. I don't have those numbers memorized. But demand for silver from an industrial standpoint is skyrocketing. Jewelry, I don't know that it's increasing one way or the other, seems fairly constant. But as a monetary investment, which gold is, platinum isn't. I'd say that's the one reason I would go with silver before platinum, but I'm not saying platinum won't do well. But silver is a monetary asset, and it's becoming more so. Florida just made gold and silver legal currency. Russia buys gold and buys silver for its central bank. So these are monetary assets as well as industrial and silver. So I think money magnet, if you don't own silver, that's the first thing you have to own. I think you need to, and again, none of this is financial advice. And I'm not a what's the word, consultant for silver. I don't have a consulting contract with the silver industry. I don't think you're going to be able to buy silver under $40 for very much longer. And once it goes through 52, I figure it doubles in price or more just with momentum. And then it'll pull back. It's very volatile. It'll pull back if we do have a big financial collapse. But I think over the next decade, whether or not there's a depression or it's a steady rebuilding of North America, a guy like, for example, David Hunter believes that silver will go to $500 an ounce. I think silver is headed to 5,000 an ounce. But I think David Hunter is giving his target more in the sense of creating wealth, whereas when I get to bigger numbers, a lot of that is preserving wealth. Because, whatever the Argentinian peso went to trade for, at some point it probably cost 10,000 peso to buy a glass of milk. At some point it's the currency collapsing more than the value going up. But I think silver is the one thing you can just focus on. Ignore everything else. And I think you should start with, John calls it constitutional silver. There's nobody on the planet that'll know what you mean except for John and some erudite collectors. Junk silver, there'll be a bunch of people that understand it, but most of the population won't know what the hell you're talking about. But you got to buy it before most of the population understands it. So that's the asset, that's the safe haven that I would seek. I think in your personal life, your personal financial world, you have to start thinking like a central bank, I guess, or like a patriarch, a matriarch. I think you need to own your place that you live free and clear if you can, because taxes are going to go up. And if you have to pay increasing taxes and mortgage and insurances, you're probably going to lose your property. But it's a debate. Do you need to own it? I don't know. But yeah, I'd say you want to, wherever you want to live, pick where you want to be. And pick something that you like and is valuable in today's context. In our new context, it'll still be valuable, assuming our population remains the same. But yeah, I think it would give you peace of mind to own your property outright. The risk with owning property is maintenance and insurance. Insurance companies will go bust. But it's also taxes. Taxes are going to going to be a bear. They're going to be a bear. But is that better than living under BlackRock? BlackRock builds a lot of rental properties. And when you sign a lease in there, you have to have good social credit because Fink wants you to behave a certain way. And you can't even light a candle because of, I guess, security. And I don't know. I don't think renting is where you want to go. The world is the rental market is going to be controlled by BlackRock and people like him. And I don't know. That's up to you. If you have any skills, if you know how to make money now, invest in that. That's probably one of the best things you can do. I'm not talking about skills like being a PhD of gender studies. That's worthless. A PhD of art history is probably not going to earn very much. Even investment bankers are going to be in trouble. Real skills, and you know what a real skill is. Invest in that, and that'll survive. I think two things you can do that will allow you to get through is if you live near either rail or water transportation. That'll protect you from the complete collapse in our ability. I don't know when. It could be delayed until after I die, but it's going to be impractical to drive internal combustion engines. There's two answers to it, obviously. There's the electric vehicle, but where are we going to get the electricity from? And those vehicles require a lot of oil. Perhaps I saw that MIT has come up with a fusion solution, and perhaps they can start building small engines that work on fusion, I guess. But I think all these things take a long, long time. You still need tires and asphalt and all that. The other thing I think is the future for transportation is ammonia. I think we can make ammonia, and Toyota is building an ammonia engine. I actually think that's going to be the future of automobiles. But the biggest change that's going to come is, and this is unfortunate, we haven't prepared for it. We're going to have to live in where we want to live. Who knows what the solution will be, but I would imagine that the automobile will be either electric or not, will be for commuting within ring roads, and going between cities will be rail. And same with cargo, and maybe by water. But anyway, so it matters where you choose to live is my point. In terms of investing, I think the most important thing that's going to separate you is resource investing. The miners, the small, and well, any oil and gas, any mining, any kind of resource. And that's what I hope to start dealing with instead of these short squeeze stocks that bring out the shills. And then they start questioning whether I'm one of the pump and dumpers. I'm just sick of it all. It's a fight I don't want to have. I have no interest in that fight. I'm if GBUX fails, you're at risk two ways. If Nixie goes up and GBUX stays where it is, I'm blaming you. If Nixie goes up by more than GBUX goes up, I'm blaming you. If GBUX goes down, I'm blaming you. If GBUX just stays flat while Railtown goes to $3 or $4, I'm blaming you. I'm blaming you for everything, David. Unless GBUX goes to $55, then I'm going to take credit. Derivatives is why Rome fell? Financialization, I'm not sure existed in Roman times. It might have. It certainly didn't exist the way we have it today, because the modern corporation was invented, I believe, in Holland. It might have been prior to that, but I think it was basically in Holland, the modern form of it. But of course, corporations were perfected kind of in that area, Holland, Scotland, the UK, and you'd have to throw in France and maybe Portugal and Italy, maybe Spain, but Spain is so confusing because they did so well and then they collapsed. But anyway, that kind of part of the world, it was corporations which changed the face of the planet. And then the United States came in and did it just incredibly successfully. I don't know if Rome had corporations, but that's maybe beyond my history lessons. But Rome did get to this idea of financialization, like you're describing, where they destroyed their currency and they essentially printed money, and the soldiers revolted. And but there were other collapses that went on. I'm not sure the morality issue is as straightforward as we'd like to make it. I think it'd be very hard to live in Roman times, whether it was the good times or the bad times. I think morality was much different, and human life was very cheap and disregarded unless you were, one of the elite. I see the short borrow rate is insanely high. I don't know which stock you're talking about. I do suggest following Ham for finger motion. He has not only a clear, vivid knowledge of the short position, both real and invisible, I guess. He also thinks it can squeeze anytime. And I think he also thinks if the overall market goes down dramatically, the short squeezes that's our time. But I'm tired of the fight, MB. I've done my very best to understand it, try to educate, try to show people how to trade it, and it's impossible. And then even in my own case, you make a mistake out of misplaced loyalty, misplaced responsibility, and you blow yourself up. It's very, very hard to make money in the markets. And if you're distracted by Well, you can't say that. That's not politically correct. You're not going to make money. Well, you can't notice that. You're just noticing something because of your own hatreds. Well, you're not going to make money. Oh, you don't know that. He's a good guy. Well, if you believe it, you're not going to make money. It's money is even worse than love. People have strange relationships with money, and people will do anything to steal your money or make you fail or try to get money on their side. The world is extremely dangerous. And that's true of love as well. And I'm willing to see what happens in GBUX. I don't think I'll get any other leads along those lines. Is it worth 2 or 3 of those plunking a little money? Northwest Bio, for example? Yeah, sure. A little bit here or there. But I'm not going to make it a focus anymore of this negativity and these attacks. And are you a consultant with it? It is meant to distract you from how you can increase your wealth and to focus on the personal, while more stealing goes on. And I just can't play that game. I can't play the fool. I can't go along with it. You know, if I call it out and it sounds like I'm some evil person, well, it's not. I know I'm not, but I guess if I am, I am. Because how can you judge yourself? Anyway, I guess you're talking about Finger, and I would suggest closely listening to Ham on the short squeeze side. I think Finger, for me, this year, I think I made my call on Finger. I think my call was correct, and I think it was a hell of a profit. There may be more ahead, but I'd like to see what happens with Nixie and GBUX. And I want to put anything, if I have time, into Railtown, because I think Railtown can give me enough of a move that then I can come to you with, you know, maybe I own 12 mining shares, 100 shares here, 200 there, 1,000 there, and I can start talking to you about that portfolio. Maybe I can buy some PSLV and it doubles over the next 6 months and I can sell it, because that's probably what I would do in that case, trying to collect it, buy more when it came back. But remember, I have a very small portfolio, and I have to be aggressive to try to make it grow. I think the future is going to be bleak, and what's going to separate us who try to build something, and I don't care. I really no longer am going to care if someone comes on here and says, oh, you're a pump and dumper for some piece of shit stock. I told you GTII was a piece of shit stock, but it might squeeze. And then when it didn't work, I backed way the hell off. Now everybody's back in on it because the guy needs you. It's okay. He might be the greatest I've never met him. And he may have your interests totally in mind. But he's going to need money from you, or he's going to need money from somewhere, and you're going to get crammed down. It's just not worth other than educationally, I guess, it's just not worth spending any more time on it. I don't think it's worth any more time on GME and AMC. And I put fingers sort of in that category as well, unless something happens soon. I think finger motion is under control. So just to be clear, GTII, finger motion, CRTD, MULN, AMC, GME, all these short squeeze plays, I think it's likelihood of success of following that path, very low. Likelihood of losing, very high. And likelihood of missing out, of rearranging your life for what's coming, definitely. And am I right? I don't know. I think I am. I wouldn't be talking about it. But maybe Boys is right. I'm off my meds. Totally helpful comment. Are you off your meds? Totally helpful. I don't want to deal with any of that shit anymore. I'll just stop having any calls, and then that helps the shorts because they could screw you. Or I'll go to subscription. Maybe that's where I have to go. Or I'll start a company. I'll build it up. I'll get a partner. We'll build a oil and gas resource company, some investments. We'll offer transactions to people. I'll do interviews, and we'll have a, whether it's from Arizona or Puerto Rico or from here at WHUR or WPFW, we'll have a radio tower for the next decade so that we can have interviews and be a community that can help each other out. And then the boys will come on and say, "Have you? You're off your meds? What? You're off your meds?" Sick of it. I'm just so sick of it. They have people running around investing money into crap to exchange crap for crap just to apply for New World Order. And yeah, so the thing is, when you're talking about crap, the thing about crap when you're talking about it, oh, can't find it. I didn't realize most people are very. My sister said, we went to brunch, and I said the church was full. And she said, well, there's a lot of people who believe. She's right. So when you speak about crap, taking forever. Just hang on, it's a comment.
Kenny G has a Christmas album out this year. Hey, happy birthday, Jesus. Hope you like crap.
You don't know who Kenny G is, probably.
Kenny G has a Christmas album out this year. Hey, happy birthday, Jesus. Hope you like crap. Kenny G has a Christmas album out this year. Hey, happy birthday, Jesus. Hope you like crap.
So we have to, it's going to be hard, but I think we have to accept the markets as they are, accept the world as it is. There's somebody I follow sometimes on YouTube, and she talks about radical acceptance. She's talking in moral terms. But we have to accept where we are. And some of it's quite frightening. But if we can do that, we can start taking steps to move away. All I can say is things are going to change dramatically. And that's opportunity too. That's opportunity to make money. I don't know. Strip clubs are boring. But you might be right. Well, that's nice to know. What I'm sorry I raised my voice. I guess boys thought I was off my meds. So helpful. All right, I want to. What's interesting about this idea that I studied so much is there are things that change. Like, for example, when I early on thought gold and silver, platinum were all going to do well, in came Bitcoin. And that's been a change. But isn't it funny how crypto requires so much energy? AI requires so much energy. And so what Trump just signed, trying to push nuclear power, I mean, every plant's 20 years away. Is there enough uranium? Look what's happened to Washington State. Look what's happened to South Carolina. Look what's festering south of Denver. Look what's west of Louisville, Kentucky. I mean, there's some scary. And then Fukushima is the worst nuclear disaster, not Chernobyl. Fukushima is. But they're hiding something on the other side of Japan they're not talking about. And our bodies cannot sense radiation. Your dog can't sense radiation. The poison kind. Of course, you can pick up the sun. So is nuclear power going to rescue the world for energy? Solar, you say it might be solar. Well, solar is silver. Solar is silver. The funny thing about solar, the greenies. For example, I was just visiting a friend a month ago out in Northern Virginia, where I used to live out there and travel out there. As my dad used to say, I wouldn't want to be a tree in Fairfax County. Well, it's true about Loudoun County now. The trees they just level them, and then they put up houses that won't exist in 30 years. They'll all have to be replaced. Maybe it's 50 years. And they put solar panels on top. Is this really going to change climate? To me, there's a couple problems with it. You're taking down the oxygen makers, trees, and you're taking down carbon sinks, trees, and you're taking out the root systems that save the soil, and you're putting in parking lots and banks and all this, and then you're putting solar panel on top. But let me ask you about solar panels. If the sun sends to Earth energy, and a lot of it doesn't get inside of our defenses, and a lot of it does. A lot of the sun comes in and it's absorbed by plants and grass and weeds, spinach, and it's converted into oxygen and carbon and growth, and so there's a daily amount of sunlight that comes to the earth and stays on the earth. It stays on the earth. Then there's a lot of sunlight that comes, bounces off an igloo or bounces off a ice cap and goes back into outer space. And quite a bit of the sunlight that hits the earth is reflected into outer space. And then over time, there's a balance. It's kind of magical how the balance works. I don't know if we are balanced now, but this gave way to a concept called Gaia, where the planet, whether or not it's actually alive, it behaves sort of as a living organism, breathes in, breathes out, etc. But my question to you is about solar panels. If the sunlight they absorb was going to go into trees that were cut down, all right, so that matches off. That sunlight would have gone into a tree or would have gone into an animal or would have gone into a cornfield. But instead, we built a bunch of houses. So, all right, I can kind of understand. That's a wash. But a lot of sunlight would have bounced off the lakes or the fields back into space, and maybe would have bounced off roofs. But now, instead, it's going to be absorbed by solar panels. What happens if the Earth starts absorbing more of its daily allocation to sun than it's releasing, and that daily balance gets out of whack to the point where we're absorbing energy every day and keeping it on the Earth in this green fashion, and it's not being released out to space? Won't that heat up the Earth? I asked that of a scientist, and she looked at me. She had no answer. But then again, she was probably just trying to think of a way to tell me I'm an idiot. All right, I'm going to plow through one introduction from Richard Heinberg. Here's a quote from Jean Baudrillard in 1989. The skylines lit up at dead of night, the air conditioning systems cooling empty hotels in the desert, and artificial light in the middle of the day all have something both demented and admirable about them, the mindless luxury of a rich civilization, and yet of a civilization perhaps as scared to see the lights go out, as was the hunter in his primitive night. That's Jean Baudrillard. Then this is M. King Hubbard, 1969. It is evident that the fortune of the world's human population, for better or for worse, are inextricably interrelated with the use that is made of energy resources. M. King Hubbard, 1969. Then E.F. Schumacher, and when E.F. Schumacher speaks, people listen. 1973. There is no substitute for energy. The whole edifice of modern society is built upon it. It is not just another commodity, but rather the precondition of all commodities, a basic factor equal with air, water, and earth. That's E.F. Schumacher, 1973. You know, I tried to study Rome a bit, and of course, I didn't do it while I was a student, so you know, life gets in its way. But I remember one of the reasons given for the Roman Empire, for the original expansion out of provinces in what became Italy, what became Rome, was that the sunlight, now I'm using my own editorialism, but the sunlight was absorbed by this plant called an olive tree. And so the energy of the sun, along with photosynthesis and water and earth, created olives. And what made the olive so powerful is a soldier could carry olives on his back or on his pouch, so he could carry with him energy. So he could walk for 20 miles or however long they marched, and they carried with them energy. And that's mostly my thought. I mean, the thought about the olives isn't, but my thought about the sunlight and the energy, and that it's an example, one of the original examples of how energy changed civilization, is my thought. But hey, I'm off my meds. Okay, this is the introduction to The Party's Over by Richard Heinberg. Who is Richard Heinberg, you might ask? Let's see if they tell you who Richard Heinberg is. He's a journalist, an educator, a lecturer, and a musician. Oh, I've read those books. Right, so he's a violinist. I wonder if he's as good as Jack Benny. All right, so he has a huge following, and his work is very good, but he's not per se a scientist any more than I am. But he wrote The Party's Over, which I've read many times. He wrote Power Down, Options and Actions for a Post-Carbon Future. I've read that. He wrote Cloning the Buddha, The Moral Impact of Biotechnology. I haven't. I'd like to read that. And he read A New Covenant with Nature's Notes on the End of Civilization and the Renewal of Culture. I haven't read that. I guess I'd like to. But anyway, here's the introduction. The world, and this, when was this book first written? Because this is the first edition was 2003, second edition 2005, and the third printing 2006. So we've gone 2 decades without the direst of these things happening. But does that mean they won't happen? So, introduction. The world is changing before our eyes, dramatically, inevitably, and irreversibly. The change we are seeing is affecting more people and more profoundly than any that human beings have ever witnessed. I am not referring to a war or a terrorist incident, a stock market crash, or global warming, but to a more fundamental reality that is driving terrorism, war, economic swings, climate change, and more. The discovery and exhaustion of fossil energy resources. He's right. The core message of this book is that industrial civilization is based on the consumption of energy resources that are inherently limited in quantity and that are about to become scarce. When they do, competition for what remains will trigger dramatic economic and geopolitical events. In the end, it may be impossible for even a single nation to sustain industrialization as we have known it during the 20th century. And so far for 20 years here, we've sustained it. And my guess is it will sustain for another 10 or 15 years. What comes after industrialism? It could be a world of lower consumption, by definition, lower population, by definition, and reduced stress on ecosystems. But the process of getting there from here will not be easy. By the way, one of the reasons people might be dying is that it's been planned because big, wealthy people know this is coming. I don't know. Even if the world's leaders adopt intelligent and cooperative strategies, which they have shown so far little willingness to do, nevertheless, the end of industrial civilization need not be the end of the world. Are you ready for that message? The end of industrial civilization. That's, if you start listening, that's what oil is. Oil is industrial civilization. I think it'll get stretched out, particularly since people are dying. And there are technologies. On the other hand, there's not going to be another Garwar field. There's not going to be another Permian Basin. I hope to show the complete and utter dependency of all modern industrial societies on fossil fuel energy resources, as well as the inability of alternatives to fully substitute for the concentrated, convenient energy source that fossil fuels provide. I hope to show the vulnerability of industrial societies to economic and political disruption as the result of even minor reductions in energy resource availability. I hope to show the inevitability of fossil fuel depletion. I hope to show the immediacy of a peak in fossil fuel production, meaning that soon less will be available with each passing year, regardless of how many wild lands are explored or how many wells are drilled. I hope to show the role of oil in U.S. foreign policy, terrorism and war, and the geopolitics of the 21st century. I hope to show the necessity of our responding to the coming oil production peak cooperatively with compassion and intelligence in a way which minimizes human suffering over the short term and over the long term enables future generations to develop sustainable, materially modest societies which affirm the highest and best qualities of human nature. All right. I'll try to minimize some of this. What causes one group of people to live in air-conditioned skyscrapers and shop at supermarkets while another genetically similar group lives in bark huts and gathers wild foods? There's no single explanation. Blah, blah, blah. Life itself requires energy. Food is stored energy. Ecosystems organize themselves to use energy as efficiently as possible. And human societies expand or contract, invent new technologies, or remain static in response to available energy supplies. Pay attention to energy, and you can go a long way toward understanding both ecological systems, and human social systems, including history. Once I realized this, I began to focus on my violin lessons. No, he doesn't say that. I began to focus my attention on society's current energy situation. Clearly, over the past century or so, we have created a way of life based on mining, and consuming fossil energy resources in vast and increasing quantities. Our food and transportation systems have become utterly dependent on growing supplies of oil, natural gas, and coal. Control of those supplies can therefore determine the economic health and the survival of nations. And then he tries to, like anybody else, he tries to find out the answers to the following questions. How much petroleum is left? Which isn't exactly the correct question. How much coal, natural gas, and uranium? Will we ever run out? That's the wrong question. When? What will happen when we do? How can we prepare? Will renewable substitutes, wind and solar power, enable industrialization to continue? I agree. I think I'm going to agree with this paragraph. It's been a long time since I read this book. The loudest and most confident voice belongs to conventional free market economists. That's true. They're wrong. Who view energy as merely one price commodity among many. They're wrong. Like other commodities, energy resources are subject to market forces, temporary shortages. Oh God, my eyes are, I don't know, I need glasses. So they need shortages to raise prices, which stimulates more production or stimulates discovery of substitute. The more energy we use, the more we'll have. economics Nobel laureate Robert Soloff has gone so far as to say ultimately, quote, the world can, in effect, get along without natural resources. What kind of insanity? Okay. Then there's a voice from environmental activists. There's another voice from retired and independent petroleum geologists. The petroleum geologists have nothing but contempt for economists who, by reducing all resources to dollar prices, effectively obscure real and important physical distinctions. According to petroleum geologists, this is errant and dangerous nonsense. Petroleum will run out. Moreover, it will do so much sooner than economists assume, and substitutes will not be easy to find. And then there's politicians. I have concluded of the four groups, the retired and independent petroleum geologists are giving us the most factual information. I am choosing to emphasize that we are approaching the first stages of an energy crisis that will not easily be solved and that will have a profound and permanent impact on our way of life. There is good news to be conveyed. It is possible in the post-petroleum world, humankind will discover a way of living that is more psychologically fulfilling and more ecologically sustainable. But unless we're willing to accept the bad news first, the good news may never materialize. Oh gosh. The message here is we are about to enter a new era in which each year less net energy will be available to humankind, regardless of our efforts or choices. I hope this is 5-10 years away, but I said that back 20 years ago, and we've already been given these 20 years, which we used, I don't know, to build Dubai. Industrial societies have been flourishing for roughly 150 years, using fossil energy resources to build far-flung trade empires, to fuel the invention of new technologies, to fund a way of life which is opulent and fast-paced. It's as if the human race has been given a sudden windfall of wealth and decided to spend that wealth by throwing a party. The party has not been without cost. The partiers have paid no attention, but soon the party itself will be a fading memory. Ludwig Boltzmann, 1886. The life contest is primarily a competition for available energy. Leslie White, 1949. Other factors remaining constant, culture evolves as the amount of energy harnessed per capita per year is increased, or as the efficiency of the instrumental means of putting the energy to work is increased. We may now sketch the history of development from this standpoint. Isaac Asimov, 1991. The ability to control energy, whether it be making wood fires or building power plants, is a prerequisite for civilization. All right, that is enough for you today. I guess I'm going to make you as scared as I am. So here's a list that Richard Duncan put together of oil production peaks for 45 nations, which represents 98% of the world's oil production. And you're going to find one problem with it right away based on fracking and horizontal drilling. But that's just putting more straws in the same milkshake and everybody sucking as hard as they can. But anyway, so he puts here the nation's peak year, United States 1970. Obviously, for the last few years, we've beaten our 1970 number. But is that going to remain? There's rumors, which we'll try to figure out, but the Permian may have peaked. And that's our miracle. Canada peaked 2007, including oil sands. Mexico 2007. I have a feeling Mexico could pull a miracle like the United States, where there's a Permian in there somewhere. North America peaked in 1985. Argentina peaked in 1998. Brazil 2008. Well, see there again, Brazil has the sub-salt oil production. Sub-salt. It'd be interesting to see if this is updated. But even if some of these countries beat it, anything new they found hits a decline curve. So it's temporary. I would argue that God gave us a way to bring more oil up, and we should have been building our new way of living. But instead, we've just burned it as if we're OP. Colombia, 1999, Ecuador, 2013, Peru, 1980, Trinidad and Tobago, 1978, Venezuela, 1970, Central and South America, 2015, Denmark, 2007, Italy, 2007, Norway, 2001, Romania, 1976. UK 1999, Europe 2000, Soviet Union 1987. Well, there's another one. Has Russia gotten production back above where it was? Iran 1974. So Iran peaked in oil production in 1974. Is it possible they're building nuclear power plants to power their country so they can continue exporting oil? Iraq, 1979. That was true, except that Iraq is probably the last reserves in the world of conventional oil that can be exploited. But we're not doing it. It's Russia, Germany, and Japan, I believe, and the French. Kuwait, 1972. Oman, 2001. Qatar, 2007, although they found more gas. Saudi Arabia, 1979. Awaiting 2004 data, Saudi reserves are hotly debated. Syria, 2003. UAE, 2007. Yemen, 2014. Middle East, 2008. Algeria, 2006. Angola, 2011. Cameroon, 2085. Congo, 1999. Egypt, 1993. Equatorial Guinea, 2011. Gabon, 1996. Anyway, it goes on like this. Brunei, 1979. China, 2008. India, 2007. Indonesia, 1977. Malaysia, 2006. Papua New Guinea, 1993. World peak, 2007. This is according to the Institute on Energy and Man. I think this got stretched out because of new technology, but it doesn't mean they found more oil. They just were more efficient in sucking out what was there. The concept is still the same. All right. The Saudi Enigma on page 264. Global spare production capacity is now at its lowest point in recent decades, reportedly a mere 1 to 2 million barrels. That's the same as it is today. So something magical happened. Most of the spare capacity exists in one nation, Saudi Arabia, but then the Permian expanded this. Matthew Simmons has been publicly questioning whether Saudi oil wells really contain all of the oil that Saudi officials claim is there. I've been reading this to you. In articles in the New York Times and his new book, Twilight in the Desert, Simmons has been quoted as saying that his extensive review of 200 technical papers by scientists working in the Saudi fields has led him to doubt the published figures. For many years, the country's 5 major oil fields, including Garwar, the largest oil field ever discovered, the 5 major oil fields have provided the core of Saudi production. But the oil field operators are injecting millions of barrels of seawater each day in order to maintain pressure within the underground system. This book was written 20 years ago. The practice maintains extraction levels. However, the aging Saudi fields, all discovered between 1940 and 1965, are inevitably being depleted. When the decline in extraction rates begins, seawater injection could actually accelerate the process, resulting in a rapid drop-off in oil available for the export market. Simmons' statements were evidently so worrisome to Saudi officials that the latter, Saudi officials, arranged a high-profile symposium at the Center for Strategic and International Studies in Washington in 2004. Their own representatives, together with U.S. officials, assured the world that Saudi Arabia's oil fields are robust and able to supply increasing global petroleum demands for decades to come. Saudi officials even took the extraordinary step of announcing that official reserve estimates of 261 billion barrels of recoverable oil are far too low. For this claim to be credible, however, independent analysts will have to see evidence of spectacular new discoveries, of which no word has yet leaked. Unless such evidence emerges, it would be safe to characterize the Saudi statements as an act of desperation intended to shore up U.S. support for the monarchy. In October of 2004, Channel 4 News in Britain conducted an interview with Saad al-Husseini, the recently retired vice president for exploration of the Saudi oil company Aramco. In the interview, Husseini noted that official U.S. forecasts for future oil supplies, which assume that Saudi Arabia can expand its oil production by over 100% over the next 2 decades. And here we are, we've just gone through 2 decades, and the assumption was they would double. They haven't doubled. Saad al-Husseini, vice president for exploration for Aramco, said, "These estimates are a dangerous overestimate." Oil's depressing outlook. As Chris Skrabowski of Petroleum Review noted in 2004, several substantial deep water oil fields are scheduled to come on stream, so there is some possibility of stabilization. A global recession could lead to a drop in demand, which, we've had that. So when will the actual global peak of production occur? In the original edition, I surveyed several forecasts and cited a window of 2006 to 2016 for the peak. Between now and then, we will continue to experience a bumpy ride as we leave the petroleum plateau, which we've been on for 30 years. Once we're off the plateau and on the downward skid, times will become very interesting. So it's the same question comes up again. These predictions were made 20 years ago and supposed to come to some sort of fruition 10 years, 8 years ago. In fairness, my expectation was 2015 to 2000. So the question is, are they wrong? Or are the impacts just been delayed? I'd say they've just been delayed. Many readers contacted me to say my book is depressing. It is. All right, I'm going to leave it there. The one thing that's changed is horizontal drilling and fracking. And in Texas, they changed the rules so that you could drill and produce all zones at the same time, and they didn't have restriction. So a lot of the extra oil on the market came from the Permian. And oil is priced on the margin. That's where it's priced. I've been thinking a lot about whether or not China's population has declined. I don't know. There's a lot of reports that it has. If it's true, maybe that's why there's not such an increase in demand for gasoline as was projected. But I think, particularly in the United States, the oil industry has been able to get more oil and gas out of the ground. But that doesn't increase the supply. It just delays. Anyway, let's just leave it at that. It does get depressing, but there will be an opportunity to make money. That's why I'm bringing it up. Not so much to get depressed, but there'll be an opportunity to make wealth creating money if we're ahead of the game. Well, I used to say, I'll rate you guys when I did videos, walking around and not lives. So maybe I'll do that again. I'll just do videos. That way I don't have to read any comments. And I have been upset the last few times on because it's unrelenting and it's disappointing. I get embarrassed that I have, for example, that I have, I have a stupidly meaningless account. It's frustrating. So it embarrasses me. So that might be part of why I get upset. But then I get upset with all this back and forth. You guys don't realize. And sometimes I get caught up in it. They just want us to argue and question each other while they steal. And if you want to win an argument that, oh, you're a consultant, well, how does that help anybody make money? And if you think I'm here, I let anybody come on here. Many people come on and try to get into the audience. I guess their motives are good, and I'm a consultant for Finger. There's Gronk. Who's better than Gronk? Who's better than Gronk? I know Lucky was better. Lucky was better because he was the best boy. But he's not around anymore, so I think Gronk takes his place. Costco sells gold and silver. You must buy it in $1,000, I guess, denominations at a time. Otherwise, you pay tax. Well, Bag lady, it's better than nothing. I've not been there, so maybe I should go out. I used to have a membership, maybe I can renew it. But when this explodes and everybody's talking about it, I would just wonder how Costco prevents the risk of counterfeiting. China counterfeits a lot of shit, and they can counterfeit gold and silver coins. I don't know. I don't know what they sell, so I'm just talking without knowledge. I personally would deal through the companies I've mentioned before. Yeah, Lucky was the best boy. He was the best boy. He taught me a lot. Well, that's my big concern with nuclear waste. That apparently the fourth generation nuclear power plants that are smaller and don't melt down, that sounds unbelievable, but they can consume some of the waste. But it's really bad. You know, when you study history, which I'm not saying I was a scholar of history, but one of the patterns of human beings is they consume all the resources and then move on to another place and consume it again. Well, we're doing that with the entire planet. And where do we move? My point being that if we allow the waste, for example, from Fukushima to enter all of our food sources, where do we go? Or we're just here. It's a big experiment. Big experiment. All right. What time is it? 6:12. Let me just see if there's any news. I'm going to sign off and just, uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh my gosh. Guys, we might be at war tomorrow. And Boys is asking me if I'm off my meds. I guess I am off my meds. I just want to be a zombie while this happens. Ukraine's President Zelensky, who's a complete buffoon, he's spiking the football and poking the Russian bear. He issued a statement calling Sunday's massive drone attack on Russian territory, which destroyed strategic bombers, quote, an absolutely brilliant result. He described the attack happened 1 year, 6 months, and 9 days from the start of planning to effective execution, our most long-range operation. Damn it. We're going to war, guys. We're going to war. This language is confusing. Seems destroying Russia's strategic bombers wasn't enough for Ukraine today. The city of Severomorsk, that houses Russia's nuclear submarines, is no longer not violently exploding. Putin may give Trump some leeway, but Putin's not the only person running Russia. There's generals, there's politicians. How long are they going to believe that the United States is not attacking Russia? Russia issued an official statement. Military airfields across Russia have been attacked in a series of kamikaze drone strikes, the country's defense minister reported on Sunday, blaming the incidents on Kiev. Most of the strikes were successfully repelled, with some resulting in material damage, it added. Airfields were targeted in the Murmansk region in the country's north, in Ivanovo and Ryazan regions in central Russia, as well as in Irkutsk region in Siberia and Amur region in the Far East, the ministry said. All the attacks employed first-person view kamikaze drones, with some of them being launched from territories in close proximity to the airfields, it stated. Some of the culprits behind the attacks have been detained, the ministry said, without revealing the number of those arrested or their identities. The Russian military also said the Kiev regime was ultimately responsible for the strikes, which they described as terrorist attacks. So we're supposed to, this is Michael Tracy, whoever that is. So we're supposed to believe that no one in the sprawling U.S. intelligence apparatus received any notification. Gosh. This is scary. 34% of Russia's strategic aviation cruise missile carriers worth about $7 billion was hit. Trump administration sources told CBS that the White House wasn't aware that today's large-scale drone attack by Ukraine was coming. I hope he's being truthful, but it really shows that we have a deep state here that just wants us in war. And, you know, my opinion, it's the banksters. Odds of a nuclear weapon detonation in this year on Poly Market just rose from 13% to 19%. 20% chance. Bloomberg reports that over 40 strategic bombers, including the Tupolev 95 and the Tupolev 22 M3, were damaged in a Ukrainian drone sword on multiple air bases. This is insanity. But I'm off my meds. I shouldn't be upset about it. I'm just off my meds. Elon Musk, Bono is a retard. I went to see that concert once. Oh my God, I couldn't stand it. That guy's full of himself. All right. 10 more minutes of checking the news at the most. At the most. I might sign off before. Oh, damn it. World War III just ahead. This is Martin Armstrong's response, part of it. Today's attack was for NATO, not Ukraine. These nuclear bombers were not deployed in Ukraine. Thus, it was by no means self-defense. This was like the assassination that started World War I, or Hitler crossing the border into Poland for World War II. This was an EU act of war, and there is no way that when history is written, we will see this as an act of Ukraine without direction or help. I got to read this. This is Martin Armstrong. Urgent. I have spoken with DC. Zelensky is full of shit. The claims from Ukraine that they informed Trump before the attack is total bullshit. Thank God. I hope Putin accepts this and gets on the phone with Trump. I hope Trump invites Putin. Well, that won't be safe for Putin. Maybe Trump can fly to Leningrad or somewhere. I hope they can meet and make agreements beyond the deep state. The only answer for peace is for Trump to sit down with Putin directly, without Rubio, without Graham, without the Zionists, without the banksters in their ear. It's got to be face to face. All right, so Martin Armstrong says the claims from Ukraine that they informed Trump before the attack is total bullshit. He is trying to make it sound like the United States has his back. I have been up front, and they know I will speak the truth and not be partisan. I believe there is no support for sending money to Ukraine, and I do not believe this attack was even possible without intelligence that I suspect came from M16 or MI6, sorry, MI6. My eyes are not very good. That I suspect came from MI6 out of the UK. I am screaming at the top of my lungs in DC, and there are people who are listening to me. Let's pray for Martin Armstrong. I have just gotten off the phone with high-level people in Congress and was told there is zero support among Republicans for any intervention from the United States of America. I pray this is right. This is Martin Armstrong. I said I would try to verify Zelensky's claims that they informed Trump before the attack. What I've been able to uncover so far is that it is a lie. And Zelensky may be trying to intimidate Putin by pretending to have support from Trump. I cannot see that this would have been in Trump's character, as it was a foolish move. This seems to be a desperate move again to try to get Putin to attack NATO so they can once again tell the fake mainstream press, wait a minute, I thought it was Trump and Truth Social that was oxymoronic. So they can tell the fake mainstream press that Putin was the aggressor and unprovoked. Martin Armstrong, I am doing everything in my power to keep the United States out of this European Union war, to cover up their economic failure. I, for one, pray for Martin Armstrong. God bless him. God bless him. Neocons, see, this is a lot of the stuff I was saying, although probably not as intelligently, and after all, I was off my meds. Neocons have exploited the ethnic hatred to destroy Russia. That's what I'm trying to talk about. Of course, you can't without it coming across as being comment. I cannot begin to explain the anger I felt when reading this headline. The headline is Ukraine's drone blitz. I hope those idiots that have been cheering this attack will be out there on the battlefield dying for their sheer ignorance. Martin Armstrong says, this is like slapping a guy across the face with your glove when he has a gun in his pocket. Bismarck understood the ethnic hatred. He does a quote about the Balkans. Bismarck understood the ethnic hatred that pervaded the entire region. Martin Armstrong, I have been unable to verify just yet, but Ukraine claims it told the United States before the attack. We live in a world of such hatred. The ethnic hatred throughout the entire region is legendary. They will take Western society down with them. Get all investments in Europe out now. Take your investments out of Europe now. We armed Ukraine. We instigated their revolution. They removed McCain's 2014 speech to cover their tracks. Then we told them to attack the Russians in the Donbass and started this civil war. And the whole time they claim it was Russia that invaded Ukraine unprovoked. As the neocon propaganda has the mainstream press right. Wait a minute. I thought Trump and truth was oxymoronic. I didn't know it was the neocons and the mainstream press. I hope these journalists are drafted for the front line. Damn. This is scary stuff, guys. This is Martin Armstrong. If this is the headline, NATO's proxy, Ukraine, attacks all of Russia's strategic bombers, igniting World War III. 3 minutes. Gosh, this is not good. If there has been any doubt that Ukraine is waging a proxy war for NATO, today has shown the true face of the war. Remember, these guys are Nazis. They're Nazis. Ukraine's security service, SBU, has carried out a mass drone attack on 4 Russian airfields on June 1st, right at the turning point of his computer's economic confidence model. They hit over 40 strategic bombers on their the bombers' home bases, including the Arctic and Siberia, after Ukraine alleged, with NATO help, after Ukraine created a drone with a 3,000 kilometer range. they targeted 41 strategic bombers that were lined up at 4 airfields in Russia to destroy Russia's ability to defend in the event of a NATO invasion. This is existential. What is Putin going to do? What would you do? What would we do? Ukraine proudly said that, quote, enemy strategic bombers are burning en masse in Russia, unquote, adding that Ukraine is conducting, quote, a large-scale special operation aimed at destroying enemy bomber aircraft. Taiwan's next. Iran's next because of Israel. Guys, pray for Trump, even if you hate him. These planes were not being used as a threat to Ukraine. That's right. This is a proxy war to destroy Russia and to weaken the country for the eventual conquest by NATO, by Germany. And we're going to be on the side of Germany, picking war with the world for the third time. They targeted 4 airfields. I can't pronounce them all. They reportedly smuggled drones deep into Russian territory, hiding them and finally launching them remotely. Just last March, Ukraine announced it had developed a new type of drone that can reach a range of up to 3,000 kilometers, but gave no details. NATO, according to Martin Armstrong, NATO has just declared World War III. We got to get the hell out of there. We've got to shut, what's her name? On the Financial Services Committee, forget her name now, from Missouri or Mississippi. Screw her. We've got to have audited trails, and we've got to stop letting Germany steal trillions of dollars. From the start of this year, our computer targeted May 25. Then it targeted June as the month when the rise in volatility would develop. May was the low point in the war. It all goes to hell fast, and Zelensky does not give a shit about Ukraine or the people. He is taking orders from the neocons and their retirement home, NATO. The Russian neocons have long criticized Putin. That's the scary thing. Russia has neocons too. Russian neocons have long criticized Putin for not taking down Ukraine as the US did to Iraq. He was only trying to protect the Russians in the Donbass. This attack to destroy Russia's entire fleet of strategic bombers is a major act of international war. Our computer has been targeting June 2nd all year. This war is now going to escalate into August, and this is not going to look good as we head into 2026. I warned Zelensky was the man they selected to create World War III from the outset. The computer has been correct, and my efforts to try to avert this outcome have been a waste of time. As I have said many times, I have never been able to defeat my own computer even once. This is Martin Armstrong. European readers may want to get their cash out before it's too late. We can see those capital controls come into play as soon as August. Those with children may want to get out before they're drafted into war, which Europe will lose. Oh God, he's mad at Trump. This is before, I'm going backwards. He's replying to some questions, Martin Armstrong. The European press is doing everything to downplay the spread of war. Because remember, truth and European press is not oxymoronic. They keep claiming Ukraine is winning and that Russia is failing. They run stories that make it sound as if Putin fears to be hanged, as if a single person is waging this entire war. Zelensky tried to assassinate Putin on May 20th. They know the truth. Putin is the only adult in the room who may not be on cocaine. He's talking about Macron and Starmer caught with cocaine. They think. Remove Putin and you will have World War III. For the guys behind him are Russian neocons. But man, don't trust Trump. Trump in truth, that's oxymoronic. We got to hate Trump. Let's get rid of Trump. Who cares about war? War's not going to happen. That's all truth. The guys behind Putin are Russian neocons. The European press pretends this war is only about Ukraine, yet several European leaders have described the Russia-Ukraine war as a proxy war. But the most prominent and consistent figure using this terminology is Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban. He said in a July 22 radio interview, quote, "This is a proxy war. The infrastructure is Ukrainian, but the money and weapons come from America, and the soldiers are Ukrainian." Orban framed the conflict as a battle between US, NATO, and Russia, arguing that Ukraine is a battleground for larger powers. Hungary seeks to stay out of its war. French President Emmanuel Macron suggested avoiding humiliating Russia, warning that the conflict risked becoming a proxy war if diplomatic solutions were ignored. However, he later attempted to back out, clarifying his support for Ukraine's sovereignty. Leaders of both Serbia and Belarus have also used similar language. The fake news, wait a minute, I thought it was Trump and Truth Social was oxymoronic, not the fake news. The fake news tries to mislead the public, claiming that it is a war of Russian aggression against Ukrainian sovereignty. If that was the case, Putin could have taken all of Ukraine instead of just protecting the Russians in the Donbass, for which he gets criticism from the hardline Russians. Orban's stance has isolated Hungary within NATO, EU, with critics accusing him of parroting Kremlin propaganda and undermining European Union unity. However, the EU needs this war and has not taken any measures to resolve the conflict or promote peace. Merkel even admitted that Germany and France never intended to honor the Minsk agreement that would have prevented this war. The number one rule of the neocons is to avoid communication, ensuring there will not be peace. This is why not a single European leader will talk to Putin. I hope Trump does. It took Trump to open communications, and they are doing their best to push Trump into this war. Sun Tzu, in his Art of War, states that sowing doubt, fear, and discord in the enemy camp is key. However, this is what the fake news and European politicians are doing to their own people, pretending that this war is confined to Ukraine versus Russia and that it will not spread, yet instituting drafts and pushing for NATO troops to enter Ukraine. A blind man can see the fake news narrative is indeed fake. Oxymoronic? When the governments are doing the exact opposite. Putin was fooled once with the Minsk agreement that the West refused to honor, so he would be a fool to agree to any peace deal whilst they are constantly rearming Ukraine and boosting military preparations. Sun Tzu prioritized indirect knowledge, espionage, and strategic deception over open communication or negotiation with the enemy. His focus was on gaining overwhelming informational and psychological advantage to win efficiently, often by making the enemy act against their own interests based on false beliefs. Direct communication was generally seen as a potential vulnerability or a lesser tool compared to the power of deception and superior intelligence. Martin Armstrong. I have supported Trump because he was against the war. I fear he has made a severe wrong turn and has taken advice from neocons who are still in the closet. His harsh words against Putin are outright provocative, and this is not about negotiating a business deal. Suppose he cannot open his eyes and see it is the EU and NATO who are sabotaging any peace deal with Russia because they want war and do not give a shit about their own people. In that case, we are watching World War III in the making as our computer models turn on Monday, June 2nd. Former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev warns Trump about the possibility of World War III. He wrote on X, quote, regarding Trump's words about Putin playing with fire and really bad things happening to Russia, I only know of one really bad thing, World War III. I hope Trump understands this, Medvedev added. Oh, my Lord. Oh, my Lord. This is frightening. This is frightening. I really hope Trump's on the phone with Putin tonight. Well, I mean, the problem is Trump, truth, oxymoronic. We don't want him talking to Putin, do we? He's oxymoronic. There's no news on Pravda, which I guess you would expect. I don't know where else to find anything else. The mainstream media, of course, we can count on to tell us about Blake Lively, whoever she is. I don't know where to find more news. It's really frightening. We could wake up at war tomorrow morning. Microsoft exposed for silencing emails that discuss genocide in Gaza while fueling Israel's war machine with AI and cloud tech. Who runs Microsoft? I guess Gates. Why would he be doing that? I don't know. Did we just experience Russia's Pearl Harbor moment? Massive breaking news. I fear the world is one half a footstep away from nuclear war, and I'm sitting in the zone. Ukraine just hit Russia's nuclear-capable bomber bases, 1,800 to 4,000 kilometers deep inside Russia. Drone swarms launched from stealth truck-mounted cabins, 40-plus aircraft claimed hit. Massive retaliation expected from Russia. They're already calling it Russia's Pearl Harbor moment. And if you know your history, then I think this post is quite apt. Hiroshima and Nagasaki now loom over Ukraine. A warning to the world. Trump was not notified. I hope he calls him. Multiple sources now confirm President Trump was not notified about the strike before it happened. Something about that feels oxymoronic. Ukraine did not notify the Trump administration of the attack, and Ukrainian officials said. A U.S. official confirms that the Trump administration was not aware of the attack in advance. Get the hell out of Europe. Zelensky may have just cooked his own goose. Let's see what the New York Post says. The New York Post, 336. Ukraine wipes out dozens of Russian doomsday nuclear bombers in a massive surprise attack on air bases. Kiev says Russian Pearl Harbor. Ukrainian forces stunned the Russian military Sunday after wiping out and damaging dozens of nuclear bombers and other aircraft with ambitious and complicated attacks that struck President Vladimir Putin's air bases deep inside the country, Kiev says. Even pro-Moscow military bloggers are calling the strike, which used drones hidden in trucks, the Russian Pearl Harbor. The attack came just a day before the leaders of Ukraine and Russia were set to meet in Istanbul as part of US-backed ceasefire talks. The mission carried out by Ukraine's security service using first-person view drones hit 41 Russian heavy bombers and other warplanes at 4 separate airfields, thousands of miles from Ukraine. The cost of the destroyed aircraft, most of which Russia no longer even manufactures, is at least 7 billion, Kiev said. The doomsday bombers are a critical part of Russia's nuclear deterrent, originally designed to obliterate the United States and Europe with atomic weapons in the event of all-out war. Ukraine said the aircraft had been converted and were being used to pummel their country with cruise missiles. Officials claimed they had destroyed more than 1/3 of Russia's strategic bombers in the strike. 1/3. The Tupolev Tu-95 Bear nuclear bombers, the Tu-22 backfire fast attack bombers, and the A-50 mainstay command and control jets were among the aircraft destroyed in the strike. President Trump has urged Moscow and Kiev to work together on a deal to end the 3-year war, and this attack could further stall the path to peace. Ukraine has said it is committed to peace, but was waiting for a memorandum from the Russian side. Yeah, I'm sure it's coming, setting out its aims before agreeing to meet with Russia. For a meeting to be meaningful, the agenda must be clear and the negotiations must be properly prepared, Zelensky wrote on X. No oxymoronic ism there. Unfortunately, Russia is doing everything it can do to ensure that the next potential meeting brings no results, he added. Oh, gosh. I feel ill. I feel ill. Tomorrow, we're at World War III. Unless Trump can do something. I read something about it that we can't really do it, and it's so much. Wow, nice barbecue. Colby, I wish I were there. Barbecue, rice, dressing, potato salad, baked beans, mac and cheese, fresh bread. Ah, it sounds great. I know. You think there's more oil on the planet than water. Yeah, okay. I think I'm going to go find a bunker somewhere. I've got to find a bunker.
the bomb, so don't wait up for me. But while you swelter down there in your shelter, you can watch me on your TV. While we're attacking frontally, watch Brinkley and Huntley describing contrapuntally the cities we have lost. No need for you to miss a minute of the agonizing Holocaust. Yeah! Little Johnny Jones, he was a U.S. pilot, and no shrinking violet was he. He was mighty proud when World War III was declared. He wasn't scared, no sirree. And this is what he said on his way to Armageddon. So long, Mom, I'm off to drop the bomb, so don't wait up for me. But though I may roam, I'll come back to my home, although it may be a pile of debris. Remember, Mommy, I'm off to get a commie, so send me a salami and try to smile somehow. I'll look for you when the war is over, an hour and a half from now.
All right, I'm going to sign off. I don't know what to think about this news. There's no question that Russia will respond. And my guess is Kiev isn't long for existence. But I think they'll attack Germany too. Bases, military bases, maybe American bases. Yeah, that's Tom Lehrer. So long, Mom, I'm off to drop the bomb, so don't wait up for me. Yeah, Tom Lehrer. Before your time, I guess. All right, everybody, I'm going to sign off. I got to go take my meds. Boy's got me. He nailed me. I'm off my meds. Maybe I can go into a stupor for the next 2 weeks while the bombs fly. Anyway, peace to everybody. Pray for peace. And I guess what we've got to pray for is that Putin and Trump have a conversation tonight. Alone. Without Rubio. Without Graham. Without Fink. Just alone. Trump to Putin. Peace, everybody.